Aaron shall burn on it fragrant incense. He's burning incense on the incense altar. And then it says this, every morning when he dresses the lamps, he shall burn it. That's burn the incense on the incense altar. But every morning he dresses the lamps. This is Aaron, this is the priest, has to come into the holy place and dress the lamps every morning. What does it mean to dress the lamp? What does that mean to you, Jasmine? Put some clothing on it, or put candles? Well, no. These lamps were not candles; they were olive oil, and there was a wick inside, and they lit the wick, and it burned. They were oil lamps. But how do you dress the lamp? Well, again, at the tip of each branch, there was a cup. This cup, well, in botanical terms, the calyx and the petals are fused together for a short distance to form a cup before they each branch off. And that cup is where the oil was, the olive oil. And then in the olive oil, there was a wick made out of cotton. And, when the oil is soaked into the cotton and you light the tip of the cotton, it burns, right? And the oil is burning, but the cotton wick is not burning. It's pretty interesting, right? The wick is soaking up the oil, and the flame is on the tip, burning the oil on the tip of the cotton, but the cotton itself is not burning. But if the oil gets low, the wick gets longer, and it takes a longer time for the oil to get absorbed and up to the cotton, so the cotton wick starts to burn. And it starts to get charred, and it starts to get smoky. Have you ever seen a smoking wick on a candle? It's because the wick got too long. So every morning, the priest had to come into the holy place and trim the charred wick off and add fresh oil. This is what it means to dress the lamps. To trim away the charred wick and to add the fresh oil. Now, in this lampstand, remember we talked about how this lampstand signifies Christ. Christ is both divine and human, right? And you remember last week when we talked about the showbread table, which also signifies Christ from a whole different perspective, that was acacia wood overlaid with gold. The gold signifies the divine nature. The acacia wood signifies the human nature. And this is Christ. He was a God-man. But what about the lampstand? It says it was pure gold. Is there anything there that would signify the humanity? Well, it's the wick. It's the cotton wick. There's some other things, too, that point to humanity, but this is the one I want to focus on, the cotton wick. It was made out of the plant material. It was not gold. It signifies the humanity. Now listen, Christ's humanity is perfect. His humanity could never get charred, but our humanity does. You see, we're becoming a reproduction of this lampstand, and we have a humanity that is short, that's fallen, it gets charred, and it becomes smoky when the oil gets low. We need Christ to come to us to trim away the charred wick. He comes as the high priest. He comes in the morning to trim the wick down, the charred part off. You'll see in the reading, it's called the snuff. There's snuffers to come in and snuff or cut off the charred part of the wick, and he adds the fresh oil so that these lamps can burn brightly and in a clean way with no smoke. We have this kind of experience all the time. Just a few days ago, I had this experience. On Sunday, I was in a meeting And all of a sudden, somebody said something. And it was like the carpet got yanked out from underneath my feet. It was like I got punched in the stomach and lost my breath. I was like, what's going on? And it just bothered me. And then the next day, I couldn't even, it was hard to get over it. I think for 30 minutes at one point in the day, I just sat there and stared off into space, like, just threw up my arms, like, what's the point? And then the next morning, on Tuesday morning, I had to get with some brothers and sisters. And we were singing and praying. And then I just opened my mouth and my opinion came out about this thing that happened on Sunday. My opinion, the opinion is the expression of the self. Let me read something you'll read this in a minute, but it says here, the snuff, the charred part of the wick, signifies the things that are not according to God's purpose and need to be cut off, such as sin, the world, the flesh, the natural man, the self, the old creation. Well, my opinion, the expression of myself came out. And, I don't think the brothers and sisters could see much, but if they had special glasses on to see, they would have seen smoke coming out of my ears. I was ready to throw somebody under the bus, and it was just my opinion about this. The oil was low. It was hard to touch the Lord, so the oil was low. The wick was burning and getting charred, and there was smoke in the room. Anyways, by the Lord's mercy, I got to Him. At some point, I got to the Lord, and I just began to open to the Lord. And the high priest came. He came with his golden instruments to trim away the charred wick, the snuff, to add the fresh oil. He just came. He said, don't you know who I am? I had just been reading the book of Acts. We're in Acts now in our reading schedule. And I had just read that this Christ is the author of life. I read that. And it's like the Lord, as the high priest was there just speaking to me. Don't you know who I am? I'm the author of life. Don't you know who I am? I'm the sovereign master. Did you all see that phrase in your reading of Acts? The sovereign master. I'm over everything. I'm overruling everything. Anyways, as the Lord spoke these things to me in my Bible reading and my opening to Him, charred wick was cut off and fresh oil was added. And tonight, I'm happy. I just feel so bright, so pleasant. I hope there's no smoke in the room anymore. But we have these kind of experiences. And but the point is, we have to get to Him. And in Exodus 30, verse 7, it says, every morning when He dresses the lamps. This is the high priest, which is a figure of Christ. Because take a look at the next verse. Let's read Revelation 1:13 together. Go. And in the midst of the lampstands, one like the Son of Man, clothed with a garment reaching to the feet, and girded about at the breast with a golden girdle. This is Christ, coming as the Son of Man. But look what He's wearing. He's wearing the priestly garments. And He's there in the midst of the lampstands. He's walking among the lampstands to dress the lamps, to trim off the charred wick, to add the fresh oil. This is our Christ.